I spent 10 years begging my own children to love me after my husband died. Every holiday I cooked for them. Every birthday I waited by the phone. And every Christmas I wrapped gifts that no one ever came to collect. Then came the Thanksgiving that changed everything. I prepared dinner for 17 people, set the table with fresh flowers, and waited for hours. Not one of my children showed up. That night, I stopped begging forever. 3 months later, I disappeared with every dollar they thought would one day belong to them. My name is Evelyn Carter, and after my husband Daniel passed away from a sudden heart attack, my entire world collapsed. At first, my 3 children promised we would face the pain together. They visited often, called every day, and helped me through the funeral. But those visits slowly became weekly calls, then monthly check-ins, and eventually complete silence. Holidays were always spent somewhere else. Birthdays came and went without invitations, and I watched my own grandchildren grow up through pictures online. Even when I broke my wrist and later faced a frightening breast cancer scare, I went through every painful moment completely alone. For years, I kept making excuses for them. I convinced myself they were busy raising families, building careers, and living their own lives. I never wanted to become a burden. So I kept trying. I baked birthday cakes, bought Christmas presents, planned family dinners, and waited by the phone hoping they would remember I still existed. But hope slowly turned into heartbreak. 10 years after losing Daniel, I made one final attempt to bring my family back together. I called each of my children and begged them to come for Thanksgiving. I spent 3 days preparing every favorite meal they loved and decorated the dining room exactly the way it used to be when our house was full of laughter. Hour after hour passed, but no one arrived. They did not even have the decency to call and cancel. I sat alone at that table until midnight, staring at 17 empty chairs, and realized I had spent a decade chasing people who no longer cared enough to show up. The next morning, I walked into my lawyer office and changed my entire life. What my children never knew was that Daniel and I had quietly built a fortune through real estate and investments. We had always lived modestly because we wanted them to value hard work instead of money. Even after Daniel died, I secretly helped them. I paid part of my granddaughter's tuition, helped one daughter with her mortgage, and invested in my son-in-law business without ever asking for credit. They gladly accepted the help while continuing to forget the woman providing it. Within months, I sold our family home, closed every account, ended every financial arrangement, packed only the memories that mattered, and moved to Charleston, South Carolina. I changed my phone number, started over, and finally stopped waiting for people who had already walked away from me. I made new friends, traveled, volunteered, and discovered that life could still be beautiful, even without the family I had spent decades trying to hold together. About a year later, everything changed again. My lawyer called to tell me my children had finally discovered how much money their father had left behind. Suddenly, they wanted to know where I was. Emails and phone calls poured in saying they were worried about me and wanted to reconnect. But after 10 years of silence, I knew exactly why they had come back. I answered them with one email. I reminded them of every lonely holiday, every unanswered phone call, every birthday they forgot, and every chance they had to simply be there for their mother. Then I ended my message with the one sentence they could never argue with. You cannot inherit a relationship you never cared enough to keep alive. They responded with excuses, anger, and even legal threats, but not one of them offered a genuine apology. The law was on my side because everything belonged to me, and eventually they gave up. Today I wake up every morning looking over the Charleston harbor with peace I never thought I would find again. I have donated much of our wealth to charities, created trust funds for my grandchildren, and built a life surrounded by people who truly value my presence instead of my money. Recently, my youngest daughter finally admitted she had been wrong and asked for another chance. Maybe one day I will answer, maybe I will not, because for the first time in many years, I am no longer waiting for anyone. Sometimes the greatest revenge is not taking everything away. It is walking away, finding your happiness, and proving that the people who failed to value you never had the power to define your life.